Good morning. This is MS. You have MS. There's hope. I always say the wrong name. Today we're talking to Megan Sylvester. Hi, Megan. How you doing?
Hi, John. How are you?
Doing well. Megan is a 40-year-old mother of two, right?
Yes.
She's married and lives in Atlanta. I walked her through the protocol a couple years now. I mean, we don't
Yeah.
talk now. That's one thing that I often that I used to lament is that I would walk people through the protocol and I would meet them, and I'd meet them whenever they were so sick. I mean, when you
Yeah.
start, you're so sick, you're so tired,
Yeah.
and then they get better, and then they stop talking to me, and it's
Because,
like I don't take it
they would
personally.
say that. They would say that in the group. They would be like, somebody would post a question in the Coimbra book group, and then people would be like, well, why does nobody answer? And the reason no one answers is because when people get better, they're not on there
They're
looking
not
for
even on
answers
there.
anymore.
Yeah, you're
They're
not a
out
part
living
of it.
their life because we've already been dealing with that.
Absolutely.
I was on Facebook when I was like really sick, having new symptoms, all of that kind of stuff. I was on there all the time looking for answers so I could
This is
answer
a
people, so I could
this,
be on there. But when you start to feel better, you really, I
you
say, you
forget
take
you
life.
ever had MS.
Yeah.
That's the
I
way
mean,
I
but you
am.
also appreciate more that I can now go out and do something. So I'm out doing
Absolutely.
something. I've started a business. I'm doing, you know what I mean? I'm doing even
Yeah.
more than I used to do because I appreciate that I can do what I can do now,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. You have much more a sense of sympathy or empathy to people, and you're so grateful. I mean, even though I'm in a wheelchair, I wake up every morning and I feel good and I don't worry about MS. MS is a distant memory for me. Right now, I'm going to read a short disclaimer, and Megan's going to go into her history a little bit and tell us when she found out about multiple sclerosis, what she did, and we'll talk a little bit about walking through the protocol, the Coimbra Protocol. This interview addresses multiple sclerosis and the treatment of it using the Coimbra Protocol. We're not doctors, and we're not giving medical advice for the treatment of your MS. Ways and methods of treating chronic autoimmune conditions such as MS vary from person to person and should be done by a licensed medical professional. We are sharing our own personal experience, and this is our testimony of those experiences. Again, Megan, thank you so much. So good to
You're
see you.
welcome.
So, you know what I notice about people? The smile. You know what? When you get better, go get a crowbar to get the smile off my face because you feel so good, and
Yeah.
you didn't know how bad you felt until you start feeling good again.
Yeah.
Anyway, share with us your journey when you found out, when you started the protocol, where you're at now, if you don't mind.
Okay. All right. So, gosh, I started having symptoms like most women after having a baby. Many women are diagnosed with multiple sclerosis after having a child. So after having my child, I started having many symptoms. Many of those symptoms were, it started off with a stomach problem. I remember like clear as day that my stomach was like bloated and I couldn't go to the bathroom for almost a month, which I should have took care of that issue. But I was busy, I was in school, and I was just like, okay, I thought if you think about constipation, you're like, you don't think it's something you need to go to the hospital for. You don't think
Right.
it's something like that. But then the next symptom I had was my eye. My eye started my eye. I went to the I actually went to the eyeglass doctor because I was like, oh, something's wrong with my contact. But I realized like when I moved it over, like I still, that vision was still gone. And then he said, well, I think you need to go to, I went to another doctor. I forgot what that, ophthalmologist. I went to that person and he said, all right. And at the time I didn't have any insurance because I was in school. And he said, I think you should go down to the hospital and get this looked at. He asked me, did anybody have multiple sclerosis in my family? And I said, no. And he asked me, he just said, I think you should go to get this looked at down there. So I set an appointment at one of the hospitals downtown Atlanta. My appointment wasn't for 2 months. So of course, by the time I went to my appointment, I was better. My eye had went back. I still didn't know what was going on. And I really did I look it up? I might have looked at some things. And a lot of that pointed towards there's like a condition where your vision can go out and all of that. And it was like that. But then there was also, I remember also reading that it could be multiple sclerosis when you have the other symptoms with it. But I just thought it was the one isolated time.
There's something I want to point out. Probably 90% of people, their first symptom has to do with their eye. It's because your optic nerve, I'm saying this,
Your optic nerve, yeah.
Your optic nerve is big and it's affected. But when you're relapsing, remitting, I had double vision and it went away. And I thought, I'm getting old. I need some bifocals or something, you know. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So then by the time I went to the doctor, I remember they sat me down and they said, they asked me the same thing. Did anybody have multiple sclerosis in my family? And they said, come back if you have any more symptoms, because it could be, there's something called like isolated something with the condition with the eye. And they said, it could be that. And if you never have anything again, then it could be that. But if you start to have more symptoms than of other things, then they said it could be multiple sclerosis. And I was just like, multiple sclerosis? I don't know anybody that has multiple sclerosis.
I didn't know anything about it.
Right. I have nobody in my family that has multiple sclerosis. I'm just like, okay, it's not more, you know, in the back of your head, you're like, it's not multiple sclerosis. And then when I was about to graduate, I remember my leg went numb and it was really hard I woke up one day and my leg was numb. And y'all, I don't know why, I still went to school walking, limping on a numb leg because I was just like, I knew something was wrong, but I'm one of those people that I'm goal oriented. I'm still going, you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Yeah. And then and then my hand started to go numb, and you know, that's when I think I called them back, and then they set me up for an MRI. My MRI was like 2 months again. So that's really what prompted me on Google. And I started looking at all this stuff. I joined multiple sclerosis groups. This is before I was diagnosed, because I was like, it sounds like multiple sclerosis. Didn't sound real, but I'm like, it sounds like multiple sclerosis. And I remember I told my husband, I said, I think I have multiple sclerosis. And everybody's like, you don't have that. You don't have that.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
Yeah. And I'm just like, but everything's pointing towards multiple sclerosis.
Yeah, they think you're a hypochondriac or you're overreacting, you know.
Right. And then I was thinking, like, maybe I'm just looking at things too much. You know, when you start Googling too much, I mean, all the signs point to everything, really. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, it pointed towards that. And then, you know, it just started to get to the point where I got out of school, but then I started to feel like I was going to fall. Like I would be at the top of the steps and I couldn't carry my baby. I'd have to ask my son, like, can you bring Mila downstairs? Because I'm scared that I'm going to fall with her down the steps, because I felt like I was just going to fall over. And every day I just lay on the couch because I just felt so shaky and I didn't know if I was going to fall. And I went to the hospital, they diagnosed me, and it's kind of sad when they diagnose people with multiple sclerosis because there's really nothing. It's just like, well, you know, good luck, and you know, you got multiple sclerosis and try to eat healthy. And
try to take
and
care
I'm just
yourself.
like, you know, I left with a bunch of steroids course, I felt better after the steroids, but you know,
They gave
um,
me a list of 10 different medications.
oh
And
well,
the doctor said to me, go home and read these and tell me which one you want to try. And I was
mm,
like, hold it. Didn't you go to school for like 8 or 10 years? Aren't you
right.
supposed to recommend something? But what I found out, people, is there is no silver bullet when it comes to multiple sclerosis. All the medicines are about as effective as the other medicine,
Yeah,
which is maybe 40%. I don't know.
and the
And
side
that's,
effects from the
oh
medicines.
my Lord, that's a whole nother,
Yeah, so that's like
I
when I
could
got
talk
diagnosed,
about that the whole time.
that was my diagnosis, but that wasn't when I went to the neurologist who basically told me about everything. But at least with yours, she gave you a choice. Mine already had a medicine set up for me. She told me that I would not be walking in a year if I didn't
Oh
take this
my,
medicine. Scared the hell out of me.
yes.
I was super scared. Um, you know, that's all I remember. But come to find out, my neurologist, I hope I can say this, my neurologist was being paid by that drug company that she was recommending
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
that there
So
used to be a site you could go on. Now I don't know
yeah,
the name of it now, but it's called. It used to be called Dollars for Doctors or Dollars for
okay.
Docs.
There's
And I
another
went
one
on there.
now.
My current doctor, or not my current now, my current doctor then was receiving $160, $60,000 from the pharmaceutical companies.
Mine received 300,000
Oh
and
my!
in 1 year. She was also invited me to a meeting where she was doing where she was talking about it, all the medicines that were available. She targets African American people, because a lot of times, I will just say this, a lot of times when we as African American people are diagnosed, we're not aware of all the other options that there are. And the scare tactic that she tried to use on me was, next year you're not going to be walking. I signed all the papers to take the medicine, but something in my head was telling me this is not the way to go, especially once I looked at those side effects. And
Good
then when
for
I
you.
joined a lot of the multiple sclerosis groups on Facebook, a lot of those people, you think it won't happen to you, but a lot of those people were dealing with cancer and multiple
Yeah.
sclerosis. They were dealing with
You know
this.
what I often say is they say, oh, there's only like a 1% or 1 in 1 million chance. And you're like, well, that's pretty good odds. But I want to tell you something. If you're that one, to hell with that 1 in 1 million. You want to feel better. I was one of the people that had side effects from the medicine, and taking the medicine was worse, way worse than the disease. And I took it for a year and a half.
I don't believe that those statistics are right. I think
I
that the
agree.
statistics are more. The thing is that they give you information, but you have to look at things yourself. You have to get out there. I think a lot of people with the Coimbra Protocol, or even just doing like a holistic treatments, they have looked at things. That's how we
Yes.
got to the place that we're at.
Yes.
Because
Exactly.
you have to you can't just take the information from this person. You don't know what they are getting from it, you know?
Right.
Or
Right.
what they're getting from giving you that information. So when I did my own research, and I'm one of those people, because at the time I was just at home. So I'm on the computer all day. I talk to different people, which is how I met John. I actually met John on through Facebook too, but I met so
He's
many other
me,
people,
by the way.
which
Yeah.
is so many other people as well who also, I'm telling you, had cancer. They tell you PML is rare. I saw a girl that got it. First of all, I know two people that have had PML. This is in my 5 years of knowing about multiple
What
sclerosis.
is female exactly? Explain to people.
PML is a deadly brain infection, which
Yes.
is also a side effect of any of the drugs. And they'll tell you, oh, that's rare.
Right.
Like you said, it's the one person that
Right.
gets it. It's
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? So it's not, I don't think it's as rare as they say, you know what I mean? So especially now that we have all these toxins and things that we're eating and coming in the air. You have to think about that. We're combining all of that together. Then you're taking something, you're ingesting something
Yes,
through your
yes.
veins, in your blood. All right, let me
One of
stop.
the reasons one of the reasons I do this is my father died at the age of 82. When he was 75, he walked 25 miles on his birthday. He was
Wow.
he was in great health. I mean, I used
Wow.
to go see him and he'd pull his knees up to his chin and he'd say, "Hey, do
Wow.
30 of these a day. They're good for you." I'm like, "Hell, I ain't gonna do that. That looks hard." Anyway, when he was 80, he started taking a pharmaceutical medicine for myasthenia gravis. He got cancer. There's no history of cancer in either side of his family. And like I said, this guy was in great shape. But when he started taking that drug, he got diarrhea, he got other side effects, and then he finally died of cancer. And I'm like, and we said to him on his deathbed, Dad, that medicine did it. And he was like, yep, and so that's one of the reasons I'm so adamant about this is that I've seen what medicine can do to people. Anyway,
Right.
let's get back to your story here. I'll take us in another direction.
Yeah, but no. I mean, I believe that this has a lot to do with it, and even why we started searching on the cook. Because I mean, if the medicine had uh good side effects, we would maybe we'd be on it, or you know what I mean. But a lot of
Yeah,
the
maybe
right.
we would.
But I mean, we know, after me, I never started them, but I know you did. And so, I looked at other people's experiences, and many people who were on the medicines weren't better. They weren't better. They were just
The
there, still
same.
taking it,
Yeah, they were.
So,
That's what medicine does. It stops progression or it slows progression. It does not heal you. And the
right,
same, let me say this: the protocol doesn't heal you, all right,
right,
but it does stop your disease. And people are like, well, what do you mean? Well, you may have lesions in your brain, you may have the disease in your body, but it's no longer active. I don't wake up now, and neither does Megan, and worry about MS. It's just
yeah.
not, it's not
Because I
there.
I actually remember when I used to wake up and be scared of, like, oh my God, this morning, what am I gonna feel this morning? Is my leg gonna not work this morning? You
Exactly.
know what I mean? So I would say that. And I do agree with
Exactly.
you, because I know John knows way more about the protocol, but I would agree with him. Like, some of the symptoms that I had before I started, they're still there. They kind of, honestly, kind of like go back and forth. Some days they're worse, but it's not to the point where I'm like, I really haven't. There's been times where I felt like maybe gonna fall, but not like how I was before. Um, Sometimes I do have like a weakness in that right leg, which is where I had that numbness initially from the beginning. And some of those initial symptoms, my eye, I haven't had any more issues with my eye, but yeah, like just what you said, like, not healed, but definitely I don't feel worse. I don't feel worse. I felt worse back then.
There's okay, so I remember this. We'll jump into this story. Megan was at about 10 months and she called me or I called her and she was pissed. And she wasn't
No,
getting she wasn't getting better and she was lamenting that and she had felt she'd been led astray by some comments and I let her vent because people, this is what I want you to realize. When you're 9, 10, 11, 12 months, a year and a half, there's going to come a period where you're going to feel good one day, and the next day you're going to think, what the hell is going on? I feel like
yeah.
crap today. And you're
Those were
you're going
those
to teeter.
days.
You're going
Those
to
were those
teeter.
days where I would
Those are those
contact
days you
you.
don't want to talk to people. And you're going to teeter. But I want to tell you something. You finally get over that and you start feeling better. Megan called me back, or I talked to her on her honeymoon, and she was at about 12 or 13 months. It was like a different person. It's like she was happy. She was feeling good. I mean, which I know getting married is stressful. So, but still, though, she wasn't having any symptoms like she was or anything. And I had a lady call me up that is as tough as they come. If I had her, if I was in a war, I would want her to be one of my generals because she's as tough as nails. She called.
But can we talk about, this is what I want to say too, John.
Go ahead.
We need to talk about how you've gotten better as well. From when
Well,
I used to talk to you. Do you remember
I
that?
feel good. I don't remember where I was at whenever I mean, you see the change. And I had
Yeah.
a speech pathologist say to me one day, and I really enjoyed this. She said, I can tell that your speech is much better. And that is one thing you notice about people going through the protocol is their speech gets better and their mind gets quicker and sharper, you know. And I can sit here and I can quote you my credit card number. That's 16 numbers. And my wife's never had multiple sclerosis. There's no way she could
Yeah.
do that. Well, I've always been a numbers guy. When my mind started coming back, that's when I knew the healing was starting to take place. But anyway, you know what? We're going to
Oh,
end up
well, I
having to
wanted
do.
to add something. I wanted to add something about the mind part because that was another symptom, but I didn't know it at the time. But I remember when I was in school, I would be really good at memorizing things. Like if I saw something, I remembered what it was. And I remember it came to a point at the end. I was wondering, was I even going to pass this school? Because I remember the teacher would call me and she would be like, Megan, what? And I would not remember anything. And it
You
was
feel like an
so,
Alzheimer's patient.
you, but you also feel dumb because
Yeah.
it's like, hold on, like, you know that you should know
You
it.
could
And
see,
then
well, I could see things in my head, but I
pull it.
couldn't, I couldn't say them. I could see them, but I couldn't say them. We're going to have to do two interviews, Megan, because I just got my little pop
I
up.
see. I see. Yeah.
And so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this interview and we'll start another one. Okay.
Okay.
One thing I want you to touch on there
Okay.
is touch on how African Americans don't think they can get MS. I want you to
Okay.
touch on that a little bit. All right.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Stop this. I don't send you out.
You got it?